Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Melbourne.
Oh, okay. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Hometown.
the northern suburb. Yeah, I'm in the northern suburbs in South Morang. I don't know if you know
Oh,
where that
okay.
is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, my sister lives in Kinglake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to visit her pretty soon. So, yeah,
Oh,
cool.
cool. Yeah. Oh, so is that where you're pretty much born around? It's
No, my family lived in Ringwood for,
oh,
East Ringwood for years, actually.
yeah,
But yeah, I grew up here. So,
yeah, that's right. Because when you moved over, what, 93 was it?
before that, yeah, I went to
Oh,
school here and stuff.
oh, did
So,
you?
yeah, my parents did a sort of reverse thing.
Oh,
Well, they moved. They lived there for maybe, I don't know, 12 years or so, and then came back. And I was born in the period they were living in Australia. So
oh, I see. Oh,
yeah, yeah.
that's
But I've
really
still
good.
got a lot of friends there, a lot of family ties there. So yeah, great. Feel quite
Yeah,
home.
yeah. So do you get back here much?
As much as I can. Obviously, I haven't been for a few years, but I've been.
Yeah,
I'm dual national, so I try and go when I can.
yeah. Yeah, that's your studio there.
Yeah, this is my creative hub, as I call it. Yeah,
Ah,
it's a bit
very
cold
cool.
this morning, so I'm
Oh,
wrapped
really?
up.
Where are you now in England?
Yeah, so just outside London.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, half an hour I can be in the centre. It's pretty cool, really.
Mm.
Even though England's declining,
Yeah. Yeah. It's right.
I've got a nice little bit here.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So now you got the new album just come out with O.R.K. So
Yep,
Screamnasium. Is that how you say it?
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So I should correct you. It's O.R.K.
Oh,
is the
sorry.
name.
So
Yeah,
not
that's all right because it's an acronym. I get told off myself.
O.R.K.
So yeah, but yeah, Screamnasium. So it's our fourth record.
Mm.
I don't know how many people know the previous records, but yeah, we've well, I think personally, for me, it's the best yet.
Yeah.
It's the most focused thing we've done. So I'm really, really happy with it, and we've got some great feedback already, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to it yesterday, and feels like there's a lot of different styles in there and different time signatures and everything's going on. It's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've got obviously the four of us have got really different backgrounds.
Mm.
So, I mean, people know me and they know Pat predominantly, but
Yeah.
my bandmates from Italy are both really, really at the top of what they do. Like
Yeah.
Lef's a fantastic vocalist.
Oh, yeah.
He's also got a really deep understanding of orchestration because he comes from a classical background.
Okay.
So he's really good at like the string arrangement on "Someone Waits" on the last track.
Yeah.
He wrote that, even though Joe
Oh,
Quayle played it and made it her own.
yeah.
That's the kind of thing he's really good at
Oh,
because he
wow.
does a lot of soundtrack stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
And I have to say, Carmelo Pipitoni's not very well known outside Italy, but
Yeah.
he's quite well known inside Italy. And
Okay.
I think of him as like somebody like Johnny Marr or John McGeoch from Magazine.
Oh, yeah.
He's his own man. He's really different.
Yeah.
But he's not a classic guitar hero. He doesn't do solos and stuff. He's got this intricate kind of picking style,
Mm.
and he does this really nice acoustic stuff. But he's also, he's a riff master as well.
Yeah.
So he's a really different sort of guitar player. I really admire. I don't know where it comes from. He's actually from Sicily, so
Okay.
I can hear there's a little bit of Sicilian folk in there sometimes.
Yeah.
It's definitely part of him. But he's a rocker as well. He's a real rock guitar player. At the end of the day, but he's got his own spin. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's probably why. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I did notice, in saying that as well, his voicings are different, like his chordal voicings are different than usual.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he's definitely a unique player,
Yeah.
and I think it's been a shame. I mean, inevitably, I end up doing a lot of the press, and some of the press focuses on me or Pat, and
Yeah.
I keep trying to say, like, you know, there's a reason why I wanted to work with Lef and Carmelo,
Mm.
and I think people are catching up. You know, they're kind of catching up now. Oh yeah, those other two guys are great. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
Lef's a fantastic vocalist. I mean, I've known him for a long time,
Yeah.
and we worked together in a different band called O.R.K some years ago, which is a very different sort of thing, very heavy, down tuned, kind of doom riff type thing,
Mm.
which was great fun. But you know, Carmelo's like, I always think he's kind of our secret weapon in the band in O.R.K, because
Yeah,
especially when we play live, I think people suddenly get what he's about. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
they
yeah.
suddenly they see him play and they think, oh yeah, right, yeah, this is what it is. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you find as a bass player to work with him? Like I was saying, with the different voicings, to make it trickier or just I don't know, different?
Well, yeah, sometimes things are a bit ambiguous, you know, like I
Yeah.
can choose a different note
Mm.
pattern or, you know, something out of the ordinary. But I do tend to find what I like to do with him specifically is I tend not to follow his riffs so
Yeah.
closely,
Yep.
and I'll try and think of something that works against him, you know, so it's almost like contrapunto or
Yeah.
but it will mesh together. So I don't, there's a few occasions when, you know, with the bass you sort of have to follow the
Yeah.
guitar,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I do try where possible to come up with something that's, you know, working against him. And I think, you know, we've got the space to do that because it's basically still more or less guitar based drums, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
funny.
that always works, you know. For me, that's what I try and do.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wrote down here on my little notes here. When I listen to the
All
album,
right.
I always write down, a few things that stand out, and that was one of them. Like how you're saying, you don't follow the guitar, like whatever he's playing. I mean, like I said, there's some songs, but not all of them, and you
Yeah.
probably frees you up to do other things.
Yeah, yeah, and it's challenging sometimes because he's quite intricate. You know, he can play some quite intricate things, and so it's. I do kind of, you know, I find my best ideas are either the immediate ones,
Yep.
or I have to really sit and listen and pick out, you know, and try and find a space in between. But generally, I think, you know, that's my favorite approach anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, because it means you're creating space by playing something different.
yep,
You know, in the right circumstance, you're creating space and you can pick out bits where you mesh together. So
yeah,
there's, you know, we sort of go apart and then we hit the same thing and then we go apart again. That's more interesting for me.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, it works
but of
really
course,
well too.
sometimes you just want to bang it out, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it works really well, like we are just describing then about when it comes in together. It's you can hear that too. They
Yeah,
come
I'm
across.
really glad you've spotted that,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, no, definitely. That's one thing that we really come across, and yeah, just you guys working well together. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I have to say, you know, with Pat as well.
Oh yeah,
Um, I mean, he's a really creative drummer.
mm.
He's really kind of, you know, so I have to sort of up my game a bit, I think, you know, with finding the space sometimes, you know, not
Yeah,
finding the space, but finding the right thing that's going to work, you know.
yeah. And I guess that's a tricky thing too. Like you're saying, like you've got those different parts with Camelo, but then at the same time, you're locking in with Pat, what he's doing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but it
Pat's
all works
very,
really well together.
no, I'm really glad to hear it. I mean, Pat's he's also got this amazing way of just making everything feel better.
Mm.
I don't always understand how he does it or what, you know, what he's doing, but it just feels good the way he plays. It's something that's sort of, it might be, it's part of the magic, really, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, so I try not to analyze it too much, you know, but we sometimes have you know, a rough drum part that we work to when we're writing,
Mm.
and we send it to Pat, and what comes back is always like 1,000% improvement, you know.
Yeah,
But it's kind of really hard sometimes to think, well, I wonder what he's going to do now, you know. But it always, you know, it's always fantastic. So it's great, you know.
yeah. So who's the main songwriters for the albums?
It's pretty well split between the
Okay.
four of us, because what usually happens, and it was difficult with the pandemic, but I
Yeah.
certainly managed it just pre-pandemic with some of the material.
Mm.
Was I usually go to Bologna where the other two guys live, the two
Okay.
Italian guys live, and we start the record together.
Mm.
And I usually take with me like a hard drive with just some sketches, really basic drum beats and grooves, or just ideas or a chord or something to get us started, you know.
Mm.
and we generally work from that basis, you know, together, and then we send it to Pat because, you know, he's in America, so he can't make it to Italy for
Yeah.
for a weekend, you know.
Yeah.
So and then we just sort of go round and round, you know, and develop the stuff together. But so the music comes out of all four of us really pretty equally, I would say, you know.
Mm.
And then the lyrics are always a joint thing between myself and Lef.
Okay. Yeah.
So I mean, Lef speaks English fantastically well, but he's not always comfortable with what he's written necessarily because it's not his first language.
Yep.
And words are something for me. I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I used to do it years ago. I used to write lyrics and things, and then I didn't for a long, long time, and I've kind of rediscovered it.
Yeah. Oh, good.
A lot of the time, with his encouragement, you know, he'll say, "Can you please do some lyrics for this?" And
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I'm quite keen to sort of, you know, keep that going. Really.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, but his vocals too. It sounds like he can sing anything.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because he's getting a lot of Chris Cornell comparisons.
Oh, really?
Which is, I mean, I can hear that. But it's also funny because he's definitely his own man, you know.
Oh, he is.
He's got, I think, you know, when you get compared to somebody who's got a fantastic history, that's a great thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wouldn't want anyone to think that he's any sort of copyist or, you know.
No.
I mean, he's definitely his own man. He's got a serious background in singing. Yeah. Interestingly, when we the first album we did in 2015,
yep.
There were loads of people picking up on the fact that they thought he sounded like David Sylvian from Japan.
Yeah, yeah.
And I told him this, and he kept saying, "I don't know David Sylvian. You know, I've got no idea. I've never listened to David." And I knew it's true. I've been around his house. I've never seen a Japan album or a David Sylvian album in his house. You know?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's subconscious, or it's just the fact that because you've got that forcefulness and you've got that character, you're going to be compared to somebody else, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, I can definitely say he's definitely his own man, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And the way he works it too, like some songs, you know, the verses and the chorus, and they go to the bridge, and they sound like three different singers in the one song, you know.
Yeah. He's very, very skilled. He's got a great range.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, I really rate him. I can't put it any other way, you know. I mean, he's got that fantastic. I think actually he might not want to talk about this, but he does have a classical background. So I think he's probably sung opera and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's had training. I know he's had training, you know.
Okay.
Which he needs. Sing like that long, you know.
Oh, for sure. So how did you guys meet with Lef?
Yeah, we met through a mutual friend of ours called Araldo Bernocchi, who's someone I've made a few albums with a band called Metallic Taste of Blood originally back in 2011.
Yep.
So I met through Araldo, and then I worked with Lef with O.R.K, which was the heavy band we had together with Araldo. And also he did his solo project called Hypersomniac a few years ago.
Okay.
Which we actually took live. It was made mainly with Norwegian musicians.
All right.
And Bill Laswell on bass, and Bill Laswell couldn't make it, so I stood in for Bill Laswell, and that was great fun. But there's somewhere on YouTube there's a concert in Oslo in about 2018 maybe.
Yep.
So I've been working with Lef for a long time outside of O.R.K as well.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Yeah, man, it's a great album. It's, and actually, going back to what you were talking about before, the recording the albums, I was having a look at your Wikipedia, and you've got a lot of albums there in different bands and solo albums.
Well, I mean, I'm a bass player, so I have to find people to play with. You know? But also, I'm quite lucky. I get asked to do quite a lot of things, and it's usually stuff that I like and stuff that I think is good and stuff that I'm happy to get involved with. So I feel for me, when I finish a record with somebody or a recording or whatever, I want to listen to that and think, I really wouldn't have done that myself, you know? Yeah. It's all about interacting and creating something together. And that's the thrill for me. And really, I'm quite fortunate I'm playing the right instrument, I think, to do that. I'm not a lead you know, lead guitarist or saxophone player or singer who has to find someone to bring people around me.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm generally being brought into different things, and that's been my experience from the very first time I started playing, because you know, there was always, I just started off wanting to play in a band like the Smiths with my mates, you know, and then somebody needs a bass player and you end up doing something completely different and following this sort of path, but none of it's planned, you know, really. Yep. It's all just one thing leading to another, and I'm really happy with that, actually.
Yeah. Now, with your basses on this album, do you use the fretted and fretless?
Yes, yeah. There's some quite prominent fretless on the Screamnasium album.
Yeah, I
know.
So,
for example, yeah, there's a lot of melodic sort of fretless on there, and a few other places as well. So I like the expressiveness of the fretless. It doesn't always fit, but I usually try it. You know, I usually try it if I can, because I think it brings a sort of even if you're playing something very simple, the fact that the note is shaped a different way and the pitch is slightly not always, you know, it's moving a little bit. It creates a bit of interest that isn't there with the fretted. But of course, sometimes you need the plank of the frets, you know. So it's a judgment call.
Yeah, that sounds great. I love the sound of the fretless. Like you're saying, just to give that different voicing, like it's probably more like a singer, I guess, because you can slide into those notes without any, you know, the separate notes.
In fact, that's interesting that you say that, because that's how I tend to approach it as a voice.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point trying to make it like a bang on sort of, you know, otherwise you might as well use a sample.
Yeah.
So I try to think of it like as if you're singing. You're not always going to get the tuning dead right, and it doesn't really matter, you know, in this age of autotune. People are paranoid about it, but you can be expressive with the tuning as well. And I think that's what makes it sound real as well. So I try and keep to that, thinking about it like a voice all the time.
Yeah, well, it definitely comes across.
I'm really glad to hear it.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I've tried it a few times on fretless guitars, and it's hard. Oh, right. It's hard work. I don't have any here, but I have tried it, and so
my friend John Durant, he plays a fretless guitar.
Okay.
If you check out the Burnt Belief stuff that I've done, he plays it. I mean, he loves it, but it's not great for chords.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, what's the other one you play? I looked it up. Gomri or something. Gomri.
Oh, a Gimbri. Yeah. It's a Moroccan instrument or North African instrument. So it's like a 3-stringed primitive sort of bass. And they play it in Gnawa music, which is like North African trance music.
Okay.
So if someone in your house is sick, you invite the Gnawa musicians round and they have a jam basically all night, and everyone goes into a trance, and it supposedly brings out the spirits and heals everybody.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of sacred music, but the Gimbri is a really interesting instrument because it's really limited. You've only got you know, like a minor pentatonic scale, really, sort of thing that you can get out of it with a few, you know, other notes. So it's a limited instrument, and it's all within a pitch, but the music's rhythmically fantastic. And it also reminds me, it's quite accessible for most Westerners, because it's like the blues. It's very bluesy.
Okay.
So yeah, I do mess about with the Gimbri. It's great fun.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. They're the main things. Just wanted to really talk about the album and your playing, which I really love. You know, it was great listening to it.
Thanks.
And hopefully, we'll catch up when you come down to Melbourne next.
Yes, I hope so. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Right, that's brilliant. Good to chat with you.
Yeah, see you soon. Bye-bye.